Pierce. I've been with National Church Residences for about 25 years now. My hair was blacker when I started. But I've seen over the years, I've seen homeless people, I've seen seniors get housing. I get chills every time I go by one of our buildings because I know the work that's been put into it. I want to thank Columbus. I remember when I went to the Army in '72, we were known as the cow town. We're not a cow town no more. And that's because of the leadership. We thank God for Mayor Ginther and Susan. One side of Columbus, we're building $1 billion, $1 trillion facility, man, where all eyes are on Columbus, Ohio. But on the other side of the city, we're building affordable housing, where God's eyes are on the city. And God is into affordable housing. Please don't forget that. God is into affordable housing. So he keeps making a way. I remember when we first started, we built Commons at Grant, and we got 50 guys out from the camps, and they couldn't believe it, even when they had their keys. They couldn't believe it until they walked into their apartments. So that's what affordable housing does. Let us pray. Father, I give you glory. I thank you for being God Almighty, for being in control, and the God that you're into affordable housing. You instruct us in Matthew, the 25th chapter, God, when you judge the nations, you didn't judge them on the military might, or God, you judged them for how they treated the last, the least, and the lost. And God, you said, whatsoever you done to the least of these, my brethren, you also done it unto me. So God, today, we partnership, we bring our talent, amen, our treasure and our time together, God, as we create new housing for those that are struggling in this season. God, we bless you. I thank you for National Church Residents. I thank you for Mayor Ginther and the leadership and City Council. And God, thank you for Susan and the leadership of National Church Residents. Now strengthen them today. We know you're in affordable housing. So God, you'll make a way in Jesus' name. And everybody said amen. God bless you. Bless you.
Thank you, Bishop. And first of all, welcome. Welcome to Bretton Woods. Isn't this a beautiful community? We are so blessed to have this right here in Columbus. And I also just want to thank Mayor Ginther for hosting us today for this important conversation and just choosing to really be here as you just talk about the important budget that's coming forward for the city. Just a couple of things. First of all, I'm so blessed and proud to be the 4th CEO of National Church Residences. We have a 62-year history. We were founded by a Presbyterian minister, and as Bishop told us, God is into affordable housing, and we're into it too at National Church Residences. We are the largest provider of senior affordable housing in the country, home-based right here in Columbus. We have 350 communities across the nation that we get to serve. And we also have home and community-based services, senior living. As Bishop mentioned, we do permanent supportive housing for the formerly homeless right here in Columbus, Ohio. And we are just pleased to be part of the conversation, but also part of the solution. And so what are we doing about it? Just quickly, since 2022, we at National Church Residences have been able to add about 1,100 units of affordable housing right here in central Ohio, just in a short period of time. And some of our leaders are here today in development, and you've been with us every step of the way. Stephanie, Amy, all of our friends here in the community, our partners from Russilli. We've got so many friends here, we couldn't do it without. And I'll tell you, one of our most important friendships, the city of Columbus. We're standing right here in a community that was made possible because of funding from many sources, including the city's capital budget. And I know that's what we're going to talk about today. A little bit more about this community. We're getting ready to do phase 2 soon. We are going to break ground this year and do phase 2 of Bretton Woods. Isn't that exciting? And we're going to do that not only with funding from the city of Columbus, but we have so many great partnerships with OFA, and we've got the state tax credit. Some of you may have picked up on the fact that our state, the state of Ohio, joined a majority of states who have a state tax credit program for affordable housing. We are leveraging that program in its inaugural round right here at Bretton Woods. And so we couldn't be prouder to host this press conference today. We couldn't be prouder to partner with the City of Columbus and to host Mayor Ginther. And he needs no introduction, but please join me in welcoming him and thanking him for this time today.
Wow, I don't know how you follow that. Susan, thank you so much for your incredible leadership, your vision, the entire team at National Church Residences. Just grateful for your partnership, your support. Bishop, thank you for your words. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being an incredible shepherd for the people of Columbus, particularly our seniors. So this development here at Bretton Woods really drives home the importance of the investments we're sharing with you here today. An affordable living community for seniors that helps to keep these residents safe and stably housed right here in the heart of the city. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that everyone in Columbus has a place to call home, a place that is theirs within their price range and close to commerce, social networks, recreation, and services they need to thrive. This is our pathway forward, one that is rooted in inclusion, expands across to the essentials of life, and embodies our commitment to closing gaps in opportunity and prosperity. This is about making equity a reality for all of our residents. Neighbors, it's great to be back on the northeast side to share my proposed capital budget for 2024, with nearly $2 billion going toward community safety, affordable housing, transit infrastructure, and many other critical investments in neighborhoods across the city. This budget includes $1.4 billion in new funding, along with $618 million in carryover funding, paving the way for a wide range of advances like crime-fighting tools, technologies, and facilities, new and renovated fire stations, new and improved parks, pools, and community centers, resurfaced roadways, and so much more. And then there are the unseen investments. Right, Director Atha? Our Director of Public Utilities. Utilities, sewer, water. They are vital to daily life, but often go unnoticed since they're usually located underground. Rest assured, whether you can see them or not, they are there when you need them. And we're going to expand and strengthen their installation throughout our city to prepare for some unprecedented growth and prosperity that's headed our way. Whether it's infrastructure that you can see or not see, it's critical to our city's future. In fact, more than $1 billion in this capital budget is being allocated for these unseen services, including planned expansions at Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant to address our region's continued growth, as well as the anticipated impact and demand of the new Intel manufacturing plant just outside of Columbus. Make no mistake, this budget reflects and puts into action our readiness to embrace smart, equitable growth. Central Ohio is on the rise in impact and influence here in the Buckeye State, as well as across the nation, and around the world, and we are ready for it. We see this in a booming economy and the arrival of global tech giants like Intel, Amazon, and Google. We see this in record-setting travel and tourism numbers. Most notably last year when Columbus welcomed more than 51 million visitors just in 2023 alone. And we see this in the historic numbers of newcomers who've arrived in our region, often for jobs, but also those who've come to get an education, raise a family, or simply start a new chapter in their lives. As my grandmother used to say, you should always have an extra place at the dinner table because you never know who will stop by. In this budget, we're doing just that because we believe there's always room for one more in Columbus. We cannot continue to grow and flourish as a city or a region unless we continue to invest in ourselves and build the infrastructure needed to empower everyone in the community to lead their best lives. So whether you've just arrived in Central Ohio, or you'll be making home here in the years ahead, or you were born here, we're also working diligently to ensure that our residents who are already here continue to receive and enjoy the high-quality city services that they've come to know and expect. We have an obligation to put in place the building blocks that will more fully and more equitably offer an exceptional quality of life for every resident and business who calls Columbus home. And it starts, as I say so often, with promoting safe, stable, and secure neighborhoods. That's because community safety remains our top priority. We know what happened last week in the Short North was unacceptable, and it must stop. We will not allow an extremely small number of violent criminals to disrupt our way of life, diminish our collective sense of safety and well-being, or roll back the progress we've achieved in decreasing our city's homicide count to nearly 10-year lows. We've done too much work as a division of police, as a community, as a city. We will not stand down. We'll continue to take on gun violence in all of its forms, tackling it like the public health crisis that it is, getting guns off our streets, and urging our leaders at the state and federal levels to take action or get out of our way so that we can do what is necessary to protect children, families, in this city. We remain steadfast in our resolve, and we're committed to taking our efforts to the next level, to advance and sharpen our focus on safety. And to name just a few examples, this budget includes $3.3 million to begin design of a new police substation at Easton, our city's largest job center outside of downtown. $50 million to begin construction of the new real-time crime center and public safety campus in North Linden. $15 million for the construction of Fire Station 36, which is going up on the far northeast side, again, to accommodate the rapid population growth that is occurring across our region, particularly on that side of town. And $9 million will go toward renovating the original firehouse adjacent to Fire Station 10 on West Broad Street, the historic structure in Franklinton that will be retrofitted with brand new amenities and community-oriented attractions and gathering spaces. We've also outlined $150 million for the new Franklin County Municipal Court building, our second largest item in this budget. The Franklin County Municipal Court system has one of the largest dockets in the state, and we continue to work collaboratively with the county to plan for a new facility that will keep the criminal justice system moving as smoothly and effectively as possible, a critical element of our ability to enforce the law and hold criminals accountable. But when we think of infrastructure, roadways and other transit-oriented services are often what most folks most effectively and quickly think of, intuitively come to mind for most folks. This budget includes those investments as well. We're devoting a substantial sum to keeping Columbus roadways safe, efficient, and cost-effective, particularly as we plan for a future in which a large number of residents are expected to take our streets in a multimodal fashion. There's $54 million for street resurfacing, which extends the life of our roads and minimizes the need for extensive, costly repairs as gradual wear and tear take their toll. These roadways are joined by nearly $76 million in roadway and intersection upgrades and over $31 million for pedestrian safety and bikeway projects. These investments are just the start and a fraction of what we ultimately envision for this community. That's why the Link Us initiative that'll appear on the ballot this fall is so important. It'll build on the progress and momentum we've already achieved while kicking our efforts into high gear, broadening the scale and speed of our ambitions and delivering tangible mobility improvements to neighborhoods in every corner of Franklin County and beyond. The growth we're experiencing requires consistent collaboration on a regional scale. We see this in terms of transit and mobility, but we also see this in terms of housing, another facet of this critical infrastructure we're working so hard to provide and expand in Columbus. Housing, like other roadways and utilities, must meet the needs of our growing community. And this budget dedicates more than $104 million to connect our residents with the housing they need at price points they can afford, with funding going toward projects that will build new affordable homes, preserve existing affordable home ownership, and provide support for those experiencing homelessness. We need to be building more housing as we grow, and we're doing everything within our powers to accelerate the pace at which we're bringing new housing online. That's why we're investing unprecedented sums to facilitate the construction of more housing at all price points, with a particular focus on lifting up those residents who cannot afford rents or home prices in this historically competitive housing market. Generally speaking, that's housing for families bringing in $50,000 a year, families who are facing disproportionately high barriers to entry and stability in the midst of the supply crisis we're experiencing, and whose housing needs aren't typically met by the market. We're also intentionally bolstering affordability with new developments in areas of our city where the potential for upward mobility and housing prices are at their highest, like downtown. This is where other cities have failed to act in their affordable housing journey, leading to less inclusive, economically diverse neighborhoods and further widening the gap between job centers, transit, housing, and education. We're not going to let that happen here. At the same time, we're allocating funds for projects and programs that are aimed at keeping our residents in their homes, like the $2 million for the Healthy Children and Safe Homes initiative, which specializes in removing dangerous lead from Columbus homes. And we're allocating $5 million toward permanent supportive housing projects for those experiencing homelessness. The projects we currently have in the pipeline are projected to create more than 700 of these new units. Our approach in all these endeavors is comprehensive and holistic. It isn't enough to tackle each issue or challenge one at a time in narrowly defined silos with no viable long-term prospects for collaboration or continuous improvement. We must wrap our arms around those in our community that are suffering. We know that 2/3 of our city is doing better than ever before, but 1/3 of our neighbors have been left out of Columbus's success story, have not shared in this incredible upward growth and prosperity of trajectory. And that's why everything we do is through the lens of equity. We want to make sure that we foster a more equitable, inclusive, and vibrant Columbus. And this is how we ensure every resident in every neighborhood is poised and empowered to reach their full potential for themselves, for their families, and for generations to come. We're really proud of this budget, and we're looking forward to partnering with our colleagues on Columbus City Council to carry it across the finish line. Council has a number of public hearings on the horizon. Some will be virtual, most will be in person. You can find the details at columbus.gov. Let's work together to lay the groundwork for a more dynamic and equitable Columbus. Let's continue to be strategic and collaborative in all that we do, embracing the growth that is already here and that we expect to continue, and doing what needs to be done to improve the quality of life for each and every Columbus resident. This is a pro-growth community, but you can't be a pro-growth community that's focused on equity unless you're willing to invest in the people and the places and the neighborhoods that have been left out and left behind. And so when you look at our capital budget and our operating budget, I'm reminded of the old saying, don't tell me what your priorities are, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what your priorities are. When you look at this budget, you will know that equity is a top priority for all that we do to make sure that every family in every neighborhood not only is sharing in our success of today, but poised to enjoy even more prosperity in the years ahead with dynamic and inclusive growth. I'd be happy to take any questions for the press and appreciate you all being here today.
Mayor,
Yeah. Good morning.
good morning. Last night, I understand you met with the Short North Alliance. What came out of that meeting that you can specifically address the shooting in the Short North?
Well, I know that police met with the Short North team there. I've met with them frequently throughout the years. Was with Betsy Pandora, their leader, yesterday. And we're really proud of the work that we've done there after a horrific mass shooting last summer. Came together and I think put together a very strong plan for a very safe rest of summer. There were record numbers of folks returning to the Short North because of that collaborative spirit. Our officers were on the scene within seconds, and we think had a large part to do without additional injuries taking place. We think that it's going to be a comprehensive approach. It's got to be prevention, intervention, and enforcement. But I'm also going to tell you, we need the rest of the community to step up. First and foremost, we need tips and information about these shooters so we can take them off the street, hold them accountable, and prevent them from doing this again. But we also need parents and others to step up too, and to know where their children are, who they're hanging out with, monitoring their social media, and doing all they can as parents. So I think we've demonstrated our commitment to the Short North and neighborhoods throughout our city, with investing in more officers, Operation Moonlight, Safe Streets, all the things that we're investing in. Historic investments we've made in youth programming and services. And although we had this one horrific incident, I think it's important to remember that we're leading the country in a decrease in homicides and violent crime. It still doesn't speak to these mass shootings. So in the last few weeks, there's been a mass shooting in Akron, Columbus, and Dayton. Clearly, we have a gun problem in this state and in this country. And that's why it's so critically important that if the federal and state legislatures will not act to deal with this proliferation of guns on our streets and in streets and cities across America, at least get out of our way and let us act and do what we need to do to protect our families and our communities.
Just as a follow-up, did anything specific come out of that meeting that's going to happen in the next week or two to address the violence? You were very quick to respond the last time we had a mass shooting when you introduced the curfews. You had Uber drivers parking different spots. You're not as quick this time. Can you explain why and what's being done?
I don't know if that's true, Kevin. If you take a look at the investments, there were 16 officers, on the scene within seconds. We have officers all over the city, and in this neighborhood in particular, because of Operation Moonlight, cameras and other things that we have in place. That investment has remained consistent, and as part of our operating budget, had committed, $500,000 to short north safety in particular. So I don't know if that's necessarily a fair characterization of this situation. I think, based on the meeting last night with the community, there are going to be a number of things we're going to look at doing, but we thought it was important to hear from the businesses, the residents, and property owners in the Short North first.
Is there any talks of increase in those fundings with youth and with more cameras, more officers?
Well, yeah, and I think this capital budget speaks to it. Some of the investments we're making there, the real-time crime center, the capital budget, contemplates and proposes the beginning construction there. We already have a real-time crime center at the Division of Police and a new partnership starting with Columbus Downtown Development Corporation, now Downtown Columbus, Inc., making better use of both city-owned cameras, but also privately owned cameras to provide information and intelligence to police and law enforcement. Our goal ultimately is to use the same sort of technology you see in other cities to really put our law enforcement on offense and hopefully even preventing crimes before they take place. But it's the investments we make through the capital budget that help prepare for that.
So statistics show Columbus had 12 mass shootings in 23 and 24. San Jose, California, similar city to our size, had 0. Charlotte, similar size, had 4. When you hear those numbers, what do you think? What actions can you take?
Well, I think we're going to continue to be aggressive about hiring more officers, about using technology, engaging with the community, continuing to invest historic amounts into youth services and programming, continue to work with our courts to make sure that folks that are committing crimes with guns are held accountable, are taken off the street, and that we're able to protect our families moving forward. But I think some of the examples you gave, reflect a very different gun policy at the state level, right? I mean, think about just a few years ago and where we are today. The legislature had put in place concealed carry, stand your ground, permitless carry. They're actually seriously contemplating right now not allowing local law enforcement from working with federal authorities on going after gun criminals and gun crimes, penalizing them, law enforcement professionals, from protecting the public. This state legislature has put in place some of the most reckless and dangerous gun policy in America. And if they don't have the courage to lead and do what 90% of what Democrats and Republicans support, common sense things, red flag laws, background checks, then get out of our way. Let mayors lead. Let Mayor Malik in Akron, who just had a mass shooting at a birthday party, or Mayor Mims in Dayton, or this mayor in Columbus. If you don't have the guts and courage to lead, to take on an extremist minority that believe that guns are more important than people, then get out of our way and let us do what we need to do to protect the people of our cities. Any other questions from the press? Yes. Tell me your name.
My name is Teresa Dudley. I live here, and I know that this might not be on the topic, but what are we doing about the Kia situation? What are we doing? I live right here. They came up here and stole my car right here from the front door. I have video of it. I gave that to the police. They still don't do anything. I'm stuck with a car that won't run. I'm fed up with it. They broke into that car 4 or 5 times. I've called the police. I lived on the west side. They broke into it. I came over here. They broke into it. And not only broke into it, then they stole it. I'm fed up with the kids. I love the kids. But something has to be done with these children. You take them downtown to the courts, they give them back to the parents, and then they right back out there stealing another one. What are you to do? These kids, I have 7 children. I love my kids. I witnessed them breaking my window one time, but I was so scared to send my kids out there or to go out there and stop them because of the guns. I was scared that they had guns, and I don't carry. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. What are we to do to protect ourselves? I had a 22 Kia. Now I'm broke down to nothing.
I'm happy to talk to you more about it and what we can do as a division of police and as a city. But you highlight a couple of really critical things. And that is, we have had a number of engagement with the judges, both juvenile and adult judges, to talk about the fact that we oftentimes had our officers arresting both juveniles and adults who were committing gun crimes, either stealing vehicles or doing other things, or robbery and other types of things, that oftentimes were beating our officers back to the streets in their neighborhood. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
There are things, we have seen some improvement, but we're going to continue to work with our judges. We need to really focus on gun crimes, because if there's a young person or adult that's committing gun crimes, that is only going to escalate and become worse and become more violent. That also makes them a target as a potential victim as well. And so what we've seen nationally, but certainly in this community, is a rise in young people who are committing gun crimes and violent crimes in the last few years. And that's why this comprehensive approach is so important, but also working with the courts. Gun crimes need to be treated differently, whether they're stealing Kias, whether they're committing robbery and other types of things. And we need to get those people off the streets. We need to get those guns off the street and keep them off the street. So, but I'm happy to talk to you more about the Kia situation and make sure our division of police is working with you. Yeah.
Colonial Village residents must find housing or pay their hotel bills. There are close to 265 households that need housing. What's being done to address that issue and future issues? I know the city has already spent about $6 million on these residents, and more. They need more help.
Yeah, I think this is one of our major issues. Some of these larger multifamily places around the city not only have been taking advantage of residents or allowing other folks to take advantage of residents, they also tend to be some of our largest police-run locations in the city, in essence taking away resources from other folks in the community. And so we're working with Colonial Village. Obviously, the city attorney and others are on one track. We're on another to potentially find a new owner, a more responsible manager and leader that will work with us to stabilize housing for folks that live there currently, improve the conditions, and make investments in safety for the folks that live there.
Is the city going to allow them to stay in these hotels after Friday, or what's going to happen?
We're going to continue to work with other partners in the community to see how we can make sure that we can offer stability and housing to them in the future. But this can't be the city's, the rest of the community is going to have to step up to philanthropic, other governments to help us make sure these folks are safe.
Hey, Mayor. How would this impact the new American Refugee Immigrants, who says that safety and creating sidewalks, for example, or even better transportation is something that is a problem and they wish to address?
Yeah, it's critically important, and as you probably heard me talk about, say, the city this year in particular, the Zone In initiative, the zoning code reform. We're reforming the zoning code for the first time in 70 years. The Link Us initiative, that'll be a transformational transit issue that'll be on the ballot this fall, investing in the corridors that we think give us the greatest opportunity to move folks to things that they need, whether it's jobs, healthcare, education, other incredible workforce development opportunities. But you're right. I mean, a good part of the Link Us issue and this capital budget is also about sidewalks, bikeways. It's all about connectivity. And our capital budget combined with the Link Us initiative will literally touch every community throughout Central Ohio. Obviously, the capital budget is going to invest in places inside the city of Columbus, but Link Us would fund parks, bikeways, sidewalks, literally in every community in the CODA service area, townships, suburbs, the city, unincorporated areas. So critically important to make sure that folks have pathways to prosperity moving forward.
And last question, you are now the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
I am.
How will those conversations with the other mayors throughout the city help push this initiative?
Well, you know, with respect to common sense gun ownership and gun safety legislation, I think it gives us a great platform to push that at the national level and work with other mayors around Ohio to continue to put pressure on the state legislature. I think if you take a look the last couple of years, the partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, you know, we've had some of the most significant legislation passed in a generation, whether it was the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. So that was the first common sense gun safety legislation passed with folks from both parties since the Clinton administration. So the U.S. Conference of Mayors can play a critically important role, and I, serving as president, are going to use this opportunity to raise our profile as a community nationally, continue to put Columbus on the map nationally and even internationally, but also to use the advocacy and the power of that national organization to push our agenda here as well. At my inaugural address on Sunday in Kansas City, I talked about housing being the #1 priority for the U.S. Conference of Mayors this year. Clearly, it's our #1 priority here in Columbus. My goal is to get the federal government to think about housing as infrastructure and funding it the same way they are transit, roads, those types of things, because housing is one of the most important issues facing the nation. Over 90% of our national and state GDP run through our cities. The past, the present, and the future of America and America's economy and trajectory runs through our cities. And so it's important that we remain a top priority, focusing on housing is our #1 issue.
And so you talk about $50 million for a real-time crime center in North Linden, over $3 million in Easton for a police substation, and last year you talked about $23 million for a Hilltop police station. Can you kind of talk about like how this is beneficial in the right now as far as the budget versus kind of the long term?
Ask me that question again. I'm not sure I totally understand it.
So pretty much it seems like millions of dollars are being invested for
Public safety.
public safety.
Mhm.
But it kind of seems like in the next, that'll be good for the next 5 years. Like what's being done now to ensure safety for people here in this community and all across?
Well, I would look at our operating budget and look at the operating budget for the last few years. Director Kathy Owens and her team have been working closely with all of our city departments, but we've invested, again, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. Historic investments we've made into youth services and programming. Created the Office of Violence Prevention out of one of the recommendations when we declared gun violence a public health crisis a few years ago. Dr. Roberts gave us many recommendations, our public health commissioner. One of them was creating the Office of Violence Prevention and make sure that our prevention and intervention strategies were meeting and exceeding the community's expectations. But it also calls upon us to make historic investments in police and fire. So we've had 3 police classes the last couple of years, first time in the city's history. And our goal is by the end of next year to have more officers than we've ever had before in the city's history, which is important because we continue to grow. So it's really this comprehensive approach and work. And I can tell you this, that Chief Bryant, under her leadership, has the Division of Police working closer with the community than ever before. It's why we're getting historic numbers of tips. Their closure rates are the highest they've ever been at the Division of Police because information coming from the community, taking more guns off the street because of tips from the community. And so we need to continue to lean in there. But if you look at our operating budget and our capital budget, it is very clear that public safety is our top priority. But we believe it has to have a comprehensive approach. Community safety is not the police's responsibility all on their own. We all have a role to play in that. The business community, the faith community, our schools, the police have a role to play, but parents and other leaders in this community have a role to play in community safety. And so we need them to step up as well. I'll stick around if, oh, go ahead.
Do you have any plans? There's some church organizations that are going to be walking the Short North area from like 11 o'clock at night to maybe 1 in the morning to remind the people on the streets they're there. Do you have any plans on walking with them?
I hadn't been invited, but you know, if that's something that's happening, I'm certainly willing to consider it. That's the first time I've heard about it. So
Worry about their safety?
I don't. The Short North is a remarkably safe place. Now, look, we've had 2 mass shootings there, you know, over the last year or so. Absolutely and totally unacceptable. But when you look at the statistics, the Short North is one of the safest places in our community, and this community as a whole has seen a historic drop in violence and in homicides year over year, and we're right now the lowest we've been in several years. So I think it's important, even in the midst of this horrible event, that we keep in mind that we're doing great work. The police is doing an incredible job. The community continues to step up. But when you have these horrible incidents take place, it just is a stark reminder that we have to be vigilant. This is not a one-time thing or a one-month thing or a summer thing. We've got to be all in all the time. And so we're going to do what it takes to keep us all safe. Thanks, everybody. I'll stick around if you guys have